Afternoon, I'm Chris Cooney. It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the COVID Recovery and Resource Zoom call. This is our 36th week, believe it or not, of holding these calls. Not every week, mostly every other week as we hit the summer, and continuing now. We are poised to go back to weekly if and when the stimulus gets approved in Congress. So just like in past weeks, we will have updates from the mayor, from the state, from the feds. We're very pleased to have with us our new chairman of the board, Joe Casey from Harbor One Bank, and really pleased to have our special guest, Michael Rodrigues, from Westport, Massachusetts, where I hail from as well. And he's also the Senate Ways and Means Chair and a small business owner himself. He owns ABC Flooring, him and his family, for many, many years. So just a little bit of housekeeping here. This call is being recorded, and the recording will be available after if there's something you want to go back and check or see what the answer was. And it'll be posted at the metrosouthchamber.com COVID recovery site, which is going to be posted down below. That's metrosouthchamber.com. We ask you to post any questions you might have in the Q&A section or the chat for any of the panelists, and we'll get to them as time allows, and so we'll keep an eye on that as we go. Also want to thank our partners who have helped promote this call today. There are a number of them. Chambers from the towns of Randolph, Stoughton, Pembroke, Norwell, East Bridgewater Business Association, Eastern Chamber of Commerce, as well as Bridgewater Business Association and the Avon Industrial Park Association. Just want to also thank the Brockton Area NAACP, the Campello Business Association, Montello Business Association, Cape Verdean Association, Haitians United, as well as the South Shore Women's Business Network. So this week, we're pleased to have with us Aidan Hume, who joins us from Cambridge Savings Bank. Cambridge Savings Bank has been with us for about the last 5 years and has been sponsoring through a yearly arrangement several events, and they've always picked December as the month that they sponsor events, so we're happy to have them here again this December. Let me tell you a little bit about Cambridge Savings Bank. It's a full-service bank institution with over $4 billion in assets. As a mutual bank, CSB is committed to improving the quality of life of their employees, customers, and communities that they serve. One of the oldest and largest community banks in Massachusetts, Cambridge Savings Bank offers a full line of individual and business banking services and has branches located in Arlington, Bedford, Belmont, Burlington, Cambridge, Charlestown, Concord, Lexington, Newton, and Watertown. Please welcome Cambridge Savings Bank Commercial Real Estate Team Lead, Aidan Hume. Aidan, we're delighted to have you with us here today. Welcome.
Thank you.
One of the things we wanted to kind of lead off, because I know you replaced John Moran, who was working in this region for 35 years. He just retired in September. So just tell us a little bit about you and how you got to Cambridge Savings Bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris, and thanks for giving Cambridge Savings the opportunity to sponsor such a great event. So in terms of me personally, I've been in banking since the early 90s, close to 30 years. I started with the old Fleet Bank, which subsequently became Bank of America, but I've actually only been with Cambridge Savings for the last 18 months. They were looking for some gray hair to replace, long-time employees that were retiring. And it's funny, initially I wasn't sure if it would be a good fit or not, but the more I spoke with the bank and, really understood how they had grown and had handled a lot more complex loans over the years. But what really impressed me about Cambridge Savings, in the course of the conversations, was that as they grew and developed more of a regional presence, those original community-based customers remained important to them. And, there was still a major focus of the bank, and that was just something that really impressed me. 18 months later, yeah. I must say, I really think I've made a good choice. I do really enjoy working for the bank, and I haven't figured out yet if it's the fact that they're a smaller bank or the fact that they're a mutual that makes it so different. But they really do, give much more credence to relationships.
Yeah. Well, welcome. And I know Cambridge Savings Bank has, in the last 5 years, really entered the market in Metro South. Tell us a little bit about what's driving key profitability in this region, and what the plans are for the Metro South region for Cambridge Savings Bank.
So it's we've we do have a significant presence throughout the Metro South region. We've, the key profitability drivers at the bank, because what really has encouraged the growth is really our commercial real estate lending, which I'm a part of, our corporate banking and our small business. And throughout the Metro South, all are pretty active. When I think of 24 to a corporate client, engineering client in Randolph, to a data center, redeveloped mall in Fall River, I think we have a presence at every exit. Should it be senior housing in Pembroke, the truck dealer in Brockton, we industrial properties at every exit. We have a fairly significant presence throughout the Metro South, and we also have a lot of employees who live in the area and are actively engaged and work for volunteer organizations there as well. So it's great they're able to contribute to the community.
Well, it's nice to see your lending capacity come this way, down Route 24, and stretch out beyond just Cambridge. Um, Tell us, are there additional plans for Metro South in terms of involvement and expansion and that type of thing?
Yeah, look, as we expand our branch footprint, I think ultimately we'd love to have a physical presence in the Metro South. But in the meantime, in terms of our corporate group, our commercial real estate group, and our small business group, as well as we recently started an asset-based lending team that is very, very active. And Keith Broyles is just joined the board of Seed. John Bobbin from that group is going to be taking over a lot of John Moran's role as John retires in the Metro South Chamber. But we're hoping to continue to expand our presence. We'll be active in the community, and we hope to continue to develop relationships with businesses throughout the entire area.
That's terrific, Aid. And I know I've met John Bobbin. He's been very active, and I know he lives, I think, right in Abington or Weymouth. He's right in this region.
Rockland.
In Rockland, okay. And there's several others that live just south of the city. So I know they've mentioned they like to be able to work at home now because they don't really need to fight their way into Cambridge, and that they have clients down this way. So it's terrific. Well, it's really nice to meet you. I want to thank you for sponsoring today, and we look forward to having you at future events and learning more about Cambridge and introducing to some folks in and around the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome. I'm going to turn to the mayor now, and I think the mayor likes to meet new bankers or anybody who has money to lend.
I absolutely do. Yes, sir, Mr. Cooney. Absolutely.
He's got plenty of buildings in the city and properties that probably could use some investment, and there's enough to go around. There's a lot of banks that are active in the city of Brockton. We only have one that's actually, headquartered here, so we know who that is, Harbor One.
Yes.
But
Yes.
we have many, many that are active and lend in the city. So, Mayor, welcome. Tell us a little bit about what's going on with the city.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank and welcome the senator for his diligence and dedication to the Commonwealth. Senator, thank you for joining. And Chris, again, your leadership of the chamber. And it's great to see Margaret and Eli week in and week out. I mean, months and months of doing this now. And Joe's been just so dedicated to the community. Mr. Hume, I'd love to have further discussions with you down the road. Absolutely. We had a roundtable just a few hours ago, and Chris participated, and we had Jim Blake from Harbor One. We had Bob Rivers from Eastern Bank. I have a standing weekly call with the local banking industries here to talk about best practices and navigate the uncertainty of COVID. And, COVID has really damaged the city of Brockton, the Plymouth County, the Commonwealth, the country. As I sit here right now, we're at 320 loss of life in the city of Brockton. 320 have perished because of COVID. Our total number overall is 7,167 cases. And our current positive cases, meaning Brockton residents have positive confirmed cases, is 1,343. So we are in a deep red classification. I have established a monthly regional task force with all neighboring communities that touch Brockton, plus Randolph and Bridgewater. We had it this week. Chris is going to participate on the next one to talk about what the chamber is doing as well. But we're all in this together. It doesn't matter where you live. COVID is ongoing. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. I was running a little late because I was on a 1 o'clock call with the local hospitals, Good Samaritan and Brockton Hospital and the VA and Neighborhood Health Center as well. So, you know, there is some hope with the vaccine coming. We just don't know when that's going to be coming and distribution is going to be key. But at the end of the day, I'm a business mayor. We need to continue our efforts to attract businesses, but also take care of the businesses that are here. That's why Margaret, and Eli, and Susan every week through the leadership of Chris in the chamber is providing resources. It was weekly, now it's every other week, but and the senator, and we have a great delegation with 3 reps and 1 senator at Brockton as well. So again, I want to thank everybody from the banking industry, business, and at the end of the day, when COVID-19 is in the rearview mirror, and I hope that's sooner than later, but when it is, Brockton is going to be poised for some wonderful, wonderful opportunities, because our number 1 asset are our people. If Brockton was a stock, and Chris has heard me say it, Brockton was a stock, we should all be buying it right now. So, Mr. Hume, I look forward to having further discussions. And I will share that I reached out to Leos Moore, the Consul General of Ireland. I'm a dual citizen, and I want to attract other developers and business opportunities to come to Brockton. We have a wonderful, diverse population: Haiti, Cape Verde, Nigeria, Angola. But as an Irish American, I thought it was appropriate to see if we could tee that up as well. And once we're past COVID, the ball is going to be rolling down the court, and I'm excited about that. So thank you, everybody. I look forward to listening and learning today. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you so much. I know the mayor and I have been talking with several organizations, companies that are investors, let's call them, that are invested in strip malls in the city. And we're very encouraged at what we see, because there's a generation of owners who are moving on and passing them on to selling them to investors who have some great plans. So we hope to talk about that in a future call. But thank you, Mayor, for being with us. With that, I'd like to move over to Margaret Laforce from the Mass Office of Business Development. I know she has a quick slideshow for us just to kind of lay out where we are at the state level. Oh, that doesn't
Thank
look so
you
good.
very much, Chris. And as I mentioned each week, the Commonwealth has many resources, particularly for gateway cities. And the mayor and I like to always remind everyone that investment opportunity zones is ranking. So it is a great opportunity, and there are many programs. Rob May calls it 7-layer dip to layer up together. So always, if there's a company online listening, trying to understand what those programs are, I always welcome you to contact myself. Typically, my colleague Sue Whitaker, also from the Mass Office of Business Development, is on these calls. She's unable to join us today. Our agency is part of the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development under Secretary Keneally. Secretary, along with Lieutenant Governor Leo, co-chair the Reimbursement Advisory Board, and that's been lately what my talking points have been on. I'm showing here our travel advisory together times. The current lower risk states currently is only Hawaii. So if you are traveling to any of the other states, especially during the holiday season, there is a travel advisory form for you to fill out. When you return, you're required to get a negative test result for 14 days. So, the information is posted online to walk you through that. And of course, you want to check in with any of the states if you do, if there's any restrictions in Massachusetts. Governor had an announcement and last week, or earlier this week rather, about Commonwealth.
Yeah, Margaret, can you lean into the microphone because you're breaking up a little bit?
Okay, sure. Is that better?
Yes.
Sorry, that's strange.
Sometimes
so
you just get out of that range of if you're a little bit far away. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So the governor announced phase 3, step 1 for the entire Commonwealth. We had sectored off a little bit, and a lot of the urban areas that had higher data were opted to stay in step 1 all along. But as for what's changed, just a quick overview. A lot of the businesses that were at 50% capacity are now decreasing to 40% capacity. That's arcades, golf, indoor and outdoor recreational businesses, libraries, just the common spaces in lodging, so not the hotel room capacity, but rather the common space areas, museums, places of worship, and retail. Your gyms and health clubs are at 40%, must wear masks. The patrons must wear masks when they're at facilities. Movie theaters have reductions, 50 people per theater. Office space does remain open at 40% capacity, but there are mask requirements when an employee is not in their own space. They're actually encouraging you to reduce continue using break rooms. The restaurants, you've heard a lot about this. Our restaurant sector has really been struggling with COVID. Masks are required at the table. Instead of 10 to a table, we're down to 6 with a 90-minute time limit. So that's a pretty big, another big change for our restaurant industry. Our outdoor theaters and performance venues have a reduced capacity to 25%. In the indoor theaters, performance venues, high contact indoor recreation, which is like your escape room, the trampoline parks, your obstacle courses, those are closed. So that's really the biggest change as far as open, closed. The rest are mostly capacity. The Love My Local Mask campaign we've talked about, and today is the last day. This week, weekend is the end of our free commercials. It's been a great resource, particularly for the small businesses that couldn't afford that airtime. I'm one organization I volunteer with, and people were telling me they heard it. So we do have a holiday-themed toolkit to encourage you to use some branding for social media for your restaurants to really let the residents of Massachusetts know what they can do in their own backyard when like I showed that map with the higher risk case. So when you are staying in your backyard, there's lots to do here in the Commonwealth. And last up, this is for your kind of HR business. You have paid family medical leave takes effect in January. And this is just a heads up about registering your administrator with the Commonwealth. If you do have an employee wanting to take advantage of these benefits come next year, we need the contact information for your administrator. I have the phone number on the screen. If you give them a call during business hours, they're going to walk you through the information that they need. They really just need a name and email. And that's it from me and Sue Whitaker. And we thank you for having us always, and glad to have the center with us today.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you for that summary and that update. I know the governor has had, I think, 3 press conferences this week alone just on different restrictions and the different levels of business curtailment. I noticed a lot of banks in this area now have gone to just drive-through, no lobby or lobby by schedule. How long do we think this phase will continue? When we were ramping up, it seemed like every 3 weeks. Now it seems like it's ramping down a lot more quickly.
So you've definitely heard me say this phrase, data, not data. So when the public health data trends in a more positive direction, that's when we'll be reviewing additional progress. But I'd say we're here for a while, and I don't think there's a, if 3 weeks data stays, there's no date certain to be looking forward to. So it is undetermined pending data.
Okay, and let me just be a little more positive in terms of we're looking forward at the chamber, and I know a lot of folks are. I know we're in the midst of a crisis, but there are state programs that are in place designed to help foster new businesses and strengthen existing businesses. What would you say your most popular product is from MOBD that companies are looking to you for, that you're recommending to help strengthen those businesses?
Sure. Well, for MOBD, our product is the Economic Development Incentive Program, and that's the state tax credit program. So tax credits for job creations, and the rates that you're able to receive those credits really have opportunities in Brockton, right? Because you're a gateway city, depending on what your industry is, we really want to utilize that program to create jobs and investment throughout the 351 municipalities. So that is really parlayed with a local gift increment financing. This is a real estate tax incentive offered locally. Glad to talk with anybody about that. Our role, in addition to that, is connecting programs, grants, and incentives with other agencies in the Commonwealth and our quasi partners. So really my conversations with every business, if you're a manufacturer, if you're that Main Street business, if you're a life science company, we have a whole slew of programs, and I understand it's difficult for people to navigate. So that's why we want you to call me or call Sue. Let's have that conversation, and I'll save you from opening 100 windows on your computer trying to figure out the state programs. We want to have those conversations. We welcome them. And, you know, Chris, you're so great to giving referrals to us. And often after these calls, my phone rings. So we are here and welcome the chance to talk about it.
That's terrific, Margaret. And I know you're so good at following up right away. I know like sometimes someone will call after this around 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then by the time I get on it and get it to you, it's 5, and you may even reach out to them 5:30 or 6 just to set up an appointment on Monday. So we appreciate that commitment, and it's going to make the difference in terms of the Metro South region and getting companies stable and then started after this is all over. So thank you very much. So I want to move on to Eli Spayu. Eli, this is the first time we've seen each other since you were awarded the Charles A. Fuller Chamber Service Award at our annual meeting a couple weeks ago. You look the same, but I. so the award seems to reflect well on you. So congratulations on that again. And can you give us an idea? We all were hoping. We talked about this last week, right? We said, oh, by the time the 11th comes, the House and Pelosi and the Senate and Mitch McConnell will have gotten together and advanced the bill to the president's desk. That didn't happen. We're still all hopeful, but I did see a nice summary today of what we think might be in there. I know you can't speculate, but what's available now, and what can you talk about in terms of stimulus?
Absolutely, Chris. So thanks again for having me, and truly humbled about the Charles Fuller Award, and greatly appreciative of it. We here at the SBA District Office, just a quick update. We held our lender award ceremony this past Monday. We recognized all of the Paycheck Protection program participants, and obviously, truly remarkable year with the PPP program. 118,000 plus loans approved here in the state, 14 plus $billion, in the balance sheets of the small businesses here in the Commonwealth. And again, very appreciative of the lending community who collectively was able to pull that, task, and make that program a success. So we're counting on our lending partners, on our chamber partners like yourself and the Metro South to, again, when this next bill gets is passed and funds become available again, to spread the word, and let folks know that perhaps businesses who did receive a PPP before, they could potentially, with this proposed bill, get a second draw. So that would be ideal. That's what the language seems to indicate. But again, until it becomes public law, it'd be speculation on our part. With regards to a couple of the folks who are on the line here, we had 2 South Shore banks awarded and recognized this year for their performance on our traditional programs. So South Shore Bank actually was the manufacturing lender of the year. We had Bristol Savings Bank awarded as the #1 lender to women. Cambridge Savings Bank, the sponsor of today's program, received 2 awards from the SBA. The #1 lender to retailers, as well as the #1 lender to new businesses. So again, we're sending a press release with all of the award winners, as you know it. And again, I just want to take the opportunity here to thank everybody on the line, all the lenders. I know we've got a few lending partners for everything that they do with the PPP loan program and the traditional loan programs. But I've got a couple of updates with regards to the other programs we have available. So first and foremost, the economic injury disaster loan. Only 10 more days remain for the original emergency declaration. So the economic injury disaster loan is going to end on December 21st of 2020. For those businesses who did not take advantage of it, there's only 10 more days, that they can apply and receive an EIDL loan under the COVID-19 emergency here in Massachusetts. So just want to make sure that folks are aware of that. I know some businesses either did not apply for an EIDL loan, or when they were offered one, they refused it because they didn't think it was going to last as long. And I know many businesses firsthand that are still hurting, as Margaret mentioned, with the new requirements from the state, they've had to readjust or perhaps close down altogether. So there is funding available under that EIDL loan program, and only for another 10 days basically. But again, hopefully this new law passes and makes it to the president's desk in a way for his signature. But speaking of president's signature, you know that we did get a stopgap funding bill, passed by Senate for another week. So originally, the government would be shut down at midnight tonight if we didn't get this bill passed, and hopefully the president gets that signed. But on another front, you are familiar, Chris, with our debt relief program. So I've mentioned that in the past. Part of this new bill speaks to additional debt relief payments. So the way that worked during the pandemic is all SBA loan recipients, so 7A loan recipients, 504 loan recipients, microloan loan recipients who have a loan through the SBA or one of our lending partners that's in regular servicing and obviously not delinquent, would have received 6 months worth of payments made by the
6 months.
SBA.
Wow.
Right. So those loans that were in deferment, they still qualify for that 6 months worth of payments made. And that, for those individuals who did not, receive the benefit, right, that benefit is available through September of 2021.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
But there is language in the new bill about extending those types of payments. So again,
Wow.
let's all be,
And that's for
hopeful.
new loans as well, right, Eli? I mean,
So on the new loans as well, that was available only for those loans approved through September 27th
okay.
of 2020.
Yep.
So we'll just be patient. We'll wait to see what the new bill has in it as far as funding for this program. But
Okay.
on that same front, there is another update that we just released a couple of days prior. So those 6 months worth of payments are actually, and I know we have a couple of accountants, including the senator here today, but those 6 months worth of payments are a taxable event to the small business owner.
Okay.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this is the guidance that we came out with, and it's hot off the press, as they say. So debt relief payments are a taxable event to the recipient, and our 7A lenders will have to issue those 1099 miscellaneous forms.
And that's
By
also true
January
of the
3.
forgivable PPP, correct?
But that is not true exactly. So that was going to be my second part of the
Oh,
sentence.
sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
So PPP loans, the forgiven portion of those loans is not a taxable event.
Not a taxable. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's not a
terrific.
taxable event.
Okay.
So it's only the debt relief. So the way the CARES Act was written, it was pretty clear with regards to the PPP loan forgiveness. Idle advance also was part of that same CARES Act.
Okay.
For those individuals who did not take a PPP loan, but they only got the advance, that is not a taxable grant. Whereas, the debt relief payments are, and in some instances, we talked about this over the summer, those 6 months worth of payments for some of the larger loans, because our programs go all the way up to $5.5 million
Yeah.
on the 504s, right? So those could be, sometimes larger than the PPP loans.
Yeah. That's
So
terrific.
it's good news, bad news, but I guess it's still good news because it helped a lot of small businesses and was made available in a time when small businesses needed the money most.
So I want to thank you for being here this week again, and hope to have you back next week. We're planning on being here next Friday, and we're hoping to have a stimulus package to talk about next week. So thank you, Eli. I really appreciate it. Now I want
Chris.
to turn to our special guest, Michael Rodrigues, Senator from a lot of towns and cities down south, let's say Fall River, but I wanted to really feature Westport, where he was born and raised, and where he represents and lives now. So State Senator Michael Rodrigues was elected to the Massachusetts State Senate in 2010, serves the 1st Bristol and Plymouth district, which includes Westport, Fall River, Freetown, Lakeville, Rochester, Somerset, and Swansea. He was appointed as chair of the Senate Committee on Ways and Means, as well as the vice chair of the Senate Committee on Steering and Policy for the 2019-2020 legislative session. In the 2017 and 18 session, he served as Senate Majority Whip, chairman of the Senate Committee on Ethics, and vice chairman of the Senate Committee on Redistricting. He previously served as the chair of the Joint Committee on Revenue. Prior to being elected to the Senate, Michael served 14 years in the House of Representatives, where he chaired the Committee on Commerce and Labor, the Committee on Labor and Workforce Development, and the Committee on Consumer Protection and Professional Licensure. He also serves on the Committee on House Ways and Means. Michael graduated from the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth with a bachelor's degree in accounting. He is president and treasurer of the ABC Flooring Covering Company in Westport, Massachusetts. And he's received numerous awards, including from the President of Portugal in 2010, the Medal of Prince Henry the Navigator, which is the highest honor bestowed upon non-citizens in Portugal. Senator, I have to say hello to you from Senator Brady. He wanted to be here, and he actually may have joined because he was in transit. But he wanted to say hello and welcome you to Brockton via Zoom, and also thank you for your leadership.
Well, thank you, Kristen. Of course, I had to ask permission from my good friend and colleague, Senator Brady, because I would never enter his district without his permission. And Mike is not only a great partner and a great senator, but a very close friend. And yeah, I'm lucky you're all lucky to have him representing you at the State House. And Mr. Mayor, it's nice to meet you. Good luck to you. It's not easy at all. Trying to run a city these days, and never mind, even pre-COVID, it's not easy, but during this COVID. So congratulations to you and best of luck to you, and know that if there's ever anything that we could do to help you, your great city of Brockton, please reach out through Senator Brady, and we will do everything we can to help you. But Chris, I don't know where we can, where do you want me to start? I'm hearing some background noise. Somebody, is that me? The
You getting background noise? I don't hear it.
Okay. So, all right. So, but anyway, you know,
I'll ask people to weigh in if the...
when I closed my remarks last week as we were debating the conference committee report, I closed with the saying, "What a long, strange trip it's been," and that's what I can say about fiscal year 2021 budget. We began about a year ago, last December, where we convened what we call a consensus revenue hearing, where we, and when I say we, it's a collective we, myself and my team at Senate Ways and Means, along with my colleague, Representative Aaron Mikowitz and his team from House Ways and Means, and the administration led by Secretary of A&F, Mike Heffernan. And we all met a year ago, December, a year ago next week, and we did arrive and all agree on a consensus revenue number for FY 21. The governor, as required by the Constitution, filed his proposed FY 21 budget on the 18th of January. Everything was going along swimmingly, and then we hit March, and the virus hit us, the pandemic began, and on the 15th of March, Governor Baker put us into a state of emergency, shut all non-essential businesses, and we started a free fall. Once again, the collective we, the financial leaders of the House, the Senate, and the administration reconvened an economic roundtable, the same group of individuals who advised us on reaching our original consensus revenue number. We met again virtually. At that time, this was on the 14th of April. At that time, it was the consensus that we were going to see between a $5 and $6 billion revenue drop as a result of the pandemic. We kind of put everything on hold. We chose, again, we chose to pass a series of interim budgets to get through the summer and the fall, into the fall, where we can have more certainty on, what is going to happen with our economy, more certainty on what's going to happen with the virus, more certainty on what is going to happen with any sort of federal stimulus support. As you know, still nothing has happened with federal stimulus support. So we're still waiting. We know what's happening with the virus. It's rebounding greatly, unfortunately. And we have more certainty on the economy, which it's really a mixed bag. There are some sectors of our economy that have been hit hard, as you know, especially in the restaurant, hospitality, tourist industries. It's been devastating. There are other areas in the economy that's done really well. The building trades, home improvements, building contractors are booming. People cannot travel. People are not eating out. They're investing that money into their homes and into their businesses and into their property. So it's kind of been a mixed bag. We also know, as the result of federal action, the CARES Act and the Coronavirus Relief Fund, lots of money, whether it was through the PPP loans or whether it was through the additional $600 per week unemployment benefit. Lots of money federal money was dumped into the Massachusetts economy, and that was actually there was a benefit for that from the state level, because what we realize is that our revenue hit as a result of this pandemic was not going to be the $5 to $6 billion as originally thought. It was going to be more in the neighborhood of $3.5 billion. And I never thought I'd say, God, we're lucky. We've only got a $3.5 billion hole, but $3.5 billion is a lot easier to manage than $5 or $6 billion, believe me. And we, the House and Senate, did pass finally the fiscal year 2021 budget. We sent it to the governor, and we are literally waiting any minute now. As a matter of fact, I'm expecting an email literally any minute now. The governor will be releasing his statement on the budget, announcing his vetoes and his amendments. So what I'd like to do, Chris, and I have Jeremy Spittle, my legislative and policy director, on the call here, to put up just a quick PowerPoint, just a few pages. Literally, this is the presentation that I made to the Democratic caucus of the Massachusetts State Senate a week ago today, outlining to them what was contained in the conference committee report for the FY 2021 budget. So it is a little bit, it's all inside baseball. There might be some jargon in here that people don't understand. And after I quickly present this, which is the big highlights of the fiscal 2021 budget, I'd love to I'd be happy to take any questions.
Is that up?
It is up. It is up.
All right. Hold on.
All right. So as I said, this was the presentation that I made to the Massachusetts State Senate Democratic Caucus a week ago today. So the FY 2021 budget, it is $46.23 billion. It's 2.66 billion, or 6.1% more increase over FY 20. Almost 2/3 of that 6.1% increase is just in Mass Health. Mass Health is the largest line item by far in the budget, over $18 billion. We've seen Mass Health roles increase as more people were laid off and shifted from private insurance onto Mass Health. So that's a whole nother story. That would take a day just to talk about how our Mass Health works alone, but it's a $46.23 billion budget. To balance the budget, we use a lot of one-time resources. We have in the legislature over the last half a dozen years through real fiscal discipline managed to put a lot of money away into our savings account. We call it the Stabilization Fund. Some people call it the Rainy Day Fund. We know it's raining. We put it away for just this reason. So to balance the FY21 budget, we withdraw $1.7 billion out of that fund. That's 48% of the fund. It was my goal going into this budget that we keep our withdrawal at less than 50%, because over the last two recessions, for the first budget year of the recession, we would take between 50 and 60%. We would draw down between 50 and 60% of the fund. So we did it, 48% of the fund, leaving 52% for FY22 and beyond. The budget does not rely on any new taxes. There are no new taxes in the budget, but we did make some tax changes, most notably something called accelerated sales tax. This was proposed by the governor, Governor Baker, and adopted by both the House and Senate. And basically, this is just a cash flow accounting mechanism that we account for more of sales tax receipts that occurred in FY21. We actually book it in FY21 rather than booking it into FY22. So that's $267 million. And we delayed the charitable tax deduction that was slated to go into place on January 1st. We delayed that for a year. So that was a $64 million savings there. And what's also notable that's not noted here, but there was about $1.5 billion of federal money that we utilized in the budget. Most notably, Mass Health is during the COVID pandemic, Massachusetts receives 56% reimbursement for Mass Health. For every dollar we spend on Mass Health, we traditionally get 50% reimbursement. The COVID struck, Congress increased that to 56%. That 6% increase amounts to about $900 million of new revenue for the Commonwealth. Also, through the CARES Act funding, as we all know, the monies that the states did receive in CARES Act came with a lot of strings attached to them. But one of the strings that were loosened up is that state governments are allowed to use CARES Act money for public safety related expenses. So on the state budget, that includes the Massachusetts State Police and the Massachusetts Department of Correction. So that was about another $500 to $600 million in federal dollars that we were able to use there. So we balanced the budget without any new taxes and with very reasonable drawdowns from our stabilization fund. Next page. Just some big ticket items. I'll run through these quickly. These are areas of notable spending, very important to the Massachusetts Senate. $852 million in the budget for early education and care, including $40 million to cover the parent fee for families receiving subsidized care for the remainder of the fiscal year. During the pandemic, we waived the parent fee through the end of the calendar year, December 31st, but the fiscal year goes to July 1st, June 31st. That's $40 million to waive that fee. $25 million for a reserve fund for COVID-19 and workforce supports for our early education and childcare facilities, and $20 million for center-based rate increases. We increased the rates to our childcare centers because they have extraordinary COVID-related costs trying to run childcare during this pandemic. $758 million for the Department of Public Health, including $169 million for the Bureau of Substance Abuse Addiction Services, so-called BSAS. That's a $20 million increase over FY20. We haven't heard much, people with the pandemic, about the opioid crisis, but it is still it is worse than ever, and we're investing in those areas. $50 million for domestic violence prevention. During this pandemic, domestic violence has been spiking, as has unfortunately suicides. So we are funding and investing as much as we can in DPH. A grant program that actually I spearheaded was $10 million to our local boards of health. It's really our local boards of health that are on the ground, front and center, dealing with the pandemic. Many of them do not have the staff or the professional expertise to deal with a lot of this. So this $10 million grant will go a long way to help them. I'll jump down to $53 million for K through 12 supports for our local school system. It's a formula-based grant that goes to our school systems to help them deal with extraordinary COVID-related expenses. $50 million for Raft. Housing instability is a very important issue that we dealt with in this budget in the Senate. This is a $30 million increase over last year. Raft is the program that helps tenants and helps landlords too, because it provides tenants with relief to pay their rent as they were laid off and out of work. $46 million for economic recovery. This is a sundry of grants of state-supported PPP, primarily focused on those industry segments, sectors that have been hit hard by the virus. $6 million for our redos, $5 million for small business technical assistance. Besides housing instability, food insecurity is another major concern of ours in the Senate. We do $30 million for MEFAB, Massachusetts Emergency Food Assistance Program. This is a $20 million increase over FY20, and $13 million for the Healthy Incentives HIP program. Behavioral health, mental health is a priority of another priority of ours in the Senate, and we invest $25 million for behavioral and mental health support, including, I don't know if there's any hospitals or providers on this call, but including a new $10 million grant program to help our hospitals stand up some inpatient behavioral health beds. All of our hospitals, you go to any emergency room throughout the state, and it's just overflowing with individuals that are suffering from mental or behavioral health issues, and they do not belong in the emergency department, but that's where they are, because that's the only place there is to take them in the case of an emergency, and we need to do more to free up our emergency departments in our hospital. We'll jump on to the next slide. Okay, so in a budget, again, I said there's some inside baseball here and jargon, but there's inside sections, which is the spending, and then there are outside sections, which are changes to Mass General Law. We made a number of changes, as I said earlier, not only in increased spending for Raft, but in policy as it relates to housing. We changed our notice to quit form to ensure that it includes information for tenants to what services and help are available to them. And we also have increased data reporting in a task force to get a handle. As you know, there's been an eviction moratorium. The Fed's eviction moratorium extends through the end of this calendar year, and we expect at the beginning of next year to see the number of notices to quit and the number of eviction proceedings starting to skyrocket. And it's going to be a problem that we really need to manage our way through. Access to reproductive health services. There was a major changes made to abortion services in the budget. Same-day billing for primary care and behavioral health. This is an issue that's very important to us in the Senate, so that, you know, it's hard to believe, but if you went and visited your primary care physician and he recommended that you go down the hall or across the street or to another behavioral mental health provider, that if those two services happened on the same day, they would not get paid for it on the same day. We changed the law that requires them to pay for it the same day. And then the accelerated sales tax, as I said earlier, that provision was in there. Next page, Jeremy. And I'm going really quick here, only so I can allow time for questions and answers. But some notable sections that were contained in the Senate budget and that managed to live through conference committee. We have language relative to the MBTA service interruptions. We extend early voting for municipalities and voting by mail through the end of March. Many communities have their local elections in February and March, and we wanted to make sure that they can take advantage of early voting and voting by mail. It's been very, very successful here in Massachusetts. We stand up a coronavirus relief fund website and a trust fund to provide more transparency for exactly what federal coronavirus relief dollars, where they will go once we ever get them. Universal provider credentialing. Once again, our healthcare providers are going to be required to have universal credentialing forms. Third-party delivery contracting. This is something called ghost menus, where these, it really just happened during the pandemic. This whole industry grew up as far as food delivery services. So if a company like Grubhub or one of those companies were delivering food, what some of them were doing was copy and pasting a restaurant's menu and then changing the prices on the menu, so that if Mike's restaurant offers a, you know, spaghetti and meatball plate for $12.95, they were changing $12.95 to $15.95 on their website. It was not illegal. It is now for them to do that. Some unique sections that made it into the conference committee that were proposed by the House of Representatives include private ambulance service reimbursement. This is just a process to ensure additional federal reimbursement for ambulance services. Prescription copay, allowing the use of coupons and copay assistance for prescription drugs. Broadband equity access commission, very important out in the western part of the state, in the Berkshires, where, believe it or not, there are many communities that still don't have full broadband. And in these days of remote schools and Zooms, it's kind of hard to do business without that. And a PFAS task force, which PFAS is a chemical that has infiltrated the groundwater, very big around the Cape. This chemical was used in fire suppression chemicals on Otis Air Force Base, and it's tainted the groundwater in the lower Cape. But it's also, this chemical is showing up all over the Commonwealth. So we're taking a close look at that. So I guess we can stand this down now. Jeremy, thank you very much. Chris, I'm going to take a breath.
Yeah, that was good. That was
and I hope
concise.
that was informative. And I'd love to answer any questions that anybody will have.
All right, we have a few questions that have been asked. First of all, a comment from our past chair of the board, Fred Clark, over at Bridgewater State University. He appreciates all you're doing for higher ed, and particularly colleges south of Boston.
Well, you know, at the beginning of this pandemic, Fred and his colleagues, and first of all, Fred is a close friend and just an amazing leader in higher ed and a leader at Bridgewater State. I don't know why he hired Vinny DiMacedo, but you know, that's another story. Only kidding. Vinny's probably one of my best friends. You know, the governor proposed level funding, higher ed, public higher ed. We increased it by a couple percent. You know, but at the beginning of this pandemic, they were looking anywhere from a 10 to 20% budget cut. So wow. I think they collectively, you know, had some great, you know, we're very happy with the budget.
Terrific. So, of the 3.5 billion shortfall that's projected, have you kind of penciled in any numbers coming from the federal stimulus, the fourth round here that we're
No.
talking about? No.
No.
So
No,
anything that
nothing-
comes in,
nothing.
will it go against that 3.5 billion? Anything that does come in?
Yeah, so whatever comes in will be put into, we stood up this coronavirus relief trust fund. So whatever is put in, whatever does come in, and we've heard all kind of numbers as you have. Every week with the new tweet, you get a new number coming from the feds. Um, Whatever does come in will go into the trust fund and we'll deal with it then.
Okay.
Yep.
And then rebuild items, reintroduce items as needed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, or use it for FY22.
Okay.
Because remember, we use the 1.5, so we use 1.7 billion from the rainy day fund and about 1.5 billion from existing federal dollars. So that's three and a half billion in one-time revenue. That creates a structural deficit going into FY22.
Okay.
Because one-time revenue can only be spent one time. So, now we have we've built a structural deficit going into FY22 that will be backfilled by any new revenue growth or any new federal dollars or any new taxes. And we've avoided raising taxes, but who knows what next year will bring.
Wow. So unemployment benefits, will they be extended through this budget? Is there money in the budget that's a separate fund or?
Yeah, unemployment is not a budget item. Unemployment benefits are paid for through the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. That is completely employer paid for. So sit down, employers, because in the next couple of weeks, the governor will be announcing the rates for calendar year 22, and it is forecast that unemployment insurance rates are going to increase 60%.
60%. Wow.
60%. I can tell you that we are already engaged in conversations with the governor and Secretary Heffernan on what we can do to flatten that curve, and that's a term we used a lot throughout this pandemic, but flatten the curve. One of the things we're looking at is, so we are going to close the year with about a $3 billion deficit in the Unemployment Insurance Trust Fund. That deficit, along with all current unemployment insurance benefits, has to be paid off within a year. That's a federal law. That's why such a high spike. One thing we're looking to do is go to the bond market and borrow money. It is actually cheaper, less expensive to borrow in the bond market today than it is to borrow from the federal government. And we can pass those cost savings on to the employer community.
Okay. Thank you. PPP, we heard about the forgiveness not being subjected to federal income tax. Will the state honor that as well?
We've already have.
You have.
Yep, we already have. Yes. So,
Great.
Back in March when this pandemic struck, we in Senate Ways and Means land, as you know, every single bill that has a fiscal impact on the Commonwealth flows through the Committee on Ways and Means.
Okay.
I will argue 95% of what we do has a fiscal impact one way or another on the Commonwealth. So 95% of all the bills flow through Ways and Means. The biggest one, of course, is the state budget. We were just about to take our policy hat off and put on our budget hat on when the pandemic struck. We quickly put our policy hat back on. And the Massachusetts legislature, with all of your legislators, all of your delegation support, passed 13 pieces of emergency COVID-related legislation, including things like making the PPP tax exempt on the state level, including allowing our local municipal governments to meet remotely, to waive the open meeting law, modify the open meeting law to allow electronic meetings to be considered the open meeting law, allow town meetings to be delayed, allow municipalities to file and pass interim budgets until they get more certainty. That was all stuff that we had to do statutorily. Then trying to help our restaurant industry, allowing outside dining, alcohol service, outside dining to be done with just local approval so that the restaurants did not have to go to the state's Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission. Allowing alcohol to go, beer and wine and cocktails to go with the meals that were going out the door. All of those were things that we had to, and we did, pass in session, make changes.
So on the PPP forgivable items, will those also be tax deductible from Massachusetts perspective? So rent, utilities, things that are typical business expenses that are forgiven and not taxable, will they be able to be deducted by the?
I believe so. But as I said earlier, I have a degree in accounting, but I'm not an accountant. So consult with your financial research guy. Yep. Yep.
Okay. SBA.
Yep.
All right. We'll that'll be a question for next week as well.
Yep.
So, MBTA, in Brockton, we were really upset about the cuts because we have a lot of people commuting to Boston.
Right.
It looked like they got pulled back on that. Is there going to be a funding issue there?
Well, we have included in the budget under the leadership of Senator Joe Boncore, who is the Senate Chair of the Committee on Transportation, and Senator Jason Lewis from Winchester, actually. We included a provision in the budget that outlines a very strict process and public engagement that the MBTA has to go through in order to reduce services. But it looks as though the MBTA is having second thoughts on some of their curtailments. But to be completely honest with you, it doesn't make sense to run buses on a full schedule when there's only 2 people on the bus. So, it's a balance act. It's a balancing act of trying to reasonably provide service that's reasonable, but it's not cheap to provide these services.
Right. So we're telling people it's probably a pause, and then as things
Yes.
open up again, we'll see the funds return and the schedule returned. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So anything else we should have asked? Let's see, Dennis Carmen from the United Way asked about the 211 funding, the information source for many communities for crisis and help. Do you know if that was in the budget?
I believe it was.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And I think that's it. I think I got to the chat and I got to the questions. So, Senator Rodrigues, we really want to thank you for being with us today and showing us the budget and answering the questions that we had. Really appreciate your service and your friendship for not only personally but also in the region and your commitment to southeastern Massachusetts. It's great to have somebody from our region serving in such a prominent role in the state. We really respect that and are happy for that.
Chris, thank you for what you and what you do at the chamber. And everybody, please know if you have any questions, Senator Brady's, he's always on his cell phone. He's always working, that guy. So he's accessible. I know that, and we're here to help.
That's great. Thanks so much. I want to thank each of our panelists who are on today and our sponsor, Cambridge Savings Bank. Aidan, very nice to meet you, and we look forward to seeing you more in the region. And I want to thank our chair, Joe Casey, who just took on the reins. You'll be hearing a lot more from him in the future as he gets comfortable in the new role. And
thank you, Senator, very much.
Thank you.
Okay. So I want to wish those who celebrate Hanukkah a very happy Hanukkah, and that starts today. And also wish you a wonderful weekend. I think Sunday's supposed to be nicer than Saturday, so I think at the close of all these meetings, we encourage people to get outside, get some fresh air, and try to enjoy your social distancing, but stay healthy. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks, Chris. See ya.
Take care. Bye-bye.